Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very special exclusive unboxing and posing session of the Star Wars Episode 9 Sith Trooper SDCC version from Hot Toys. There's a very limited number of these and this variation being sold at SDCC this year, 2019. Let's see how it turned out. Alright, here we go. In case you've been off-world, partying it up on Coruscant or slumming in the streets of Nar Shaddaa, this is an SDCC exclusive version of a figure being released by Hot Toys of the Sith Trooper. It will be available at SDCC 2019 at the Sideshow Collectibles booth. It's right there in the middle of the floor. Massive thing. You can't miss it. If you're looking for it on a map, you're going to find it. It's going to be number 1929. Sideshow's the exclusive distributor of Hot Toys in the States, so get it from them. Don't wait for the black market. You're going to disappoint yourself if you do. Anyway, moving on. Now, here we go. Pulling it out. This looks promising. A nice, gorgeous red. Funny, the plastic wrapper on mine had actually been pretty much shredded. But yeah, look at this. You've got a nice lenticular effect going on here and some really sweet chromium. There's your sticker that indicates that this is the advanced release. This is going to be limited to I think 200 pieces that will be sold at San Diego Comic-Con 2019. So if you're going to San Diego or know somebody is, then either pick one up for yourself or have somebody pick one up for you if you have that, if somebody's willing to do that. I'm sure that they're limiting this to one per person. Love the variation of the typical packaging with the little the design, the way that they have everything lined up in the black boxes. They've taken a step up from that. This is really slick. Just look at that sharp red, those different variations in tones in the reds, coupled with that chromium logo that's going on there, the Star Wars logo. I just really like how this turned out. Okay, so what this is, though, is a sleeve that goes over what I assume is going to be the regular box. So if you don't get this at Comic-Con, the sleeve is the thing that you're not going to get, I suspect. Now, no one's confirmed that for me. Again, this is 100% pure conjecture, but I think that what we're looking at here now is what's going to come with the regular non-advanced release edition. So if you order this down the line, this is what you'll get. Right, we've got that covered. So yeah, looking at this, yeah, it's pretty standard fare. Great photography on the front, obviously, but this is the typical Star Wars box that you get from pretty much any company that releases Star Wars, be it Hot Toys, Sideshow, whomever. Looks good. The packaging is nice and clean. I've said it before in some of my other videos, but I really do dig the idea of this uniformity. I don't display my boxes, but if I did, I'd really welcome it. I think it's a great idea. Now, getting back to what we're seeing here on the front. This photography does feature a nice close-up of the new gun. What are those? What are those things below the barrel? I'm thinking some incendiaries, some explosives, who knows? Can't wait to see if we get to see this guy use that gun to its full potential in the new film. Just seems like an opportunity wasted. Back cover art looks great. Great photograph of multiple Sith Troopers. Looks like we've got two there. And there's another gun. Looks like a variant of the Sunblast F11D that you'd see standard line stormtroopers carrying. But yeah, that photograph there is pretty slick. So yeah, that's just about it for the main packaging. So I think now is about the time we need to open up the box and see what awaits us on the inside. Ah, look, more photography, and it's equally good, man. Really good stuff. We're getting another close look at the new weapon here. God, that reminds me of the SMG from a couple of video games that I like to play. So there's your interior art. We're used to that, and there he is in all of his glory. All wrapped up in plastic, arrived to me nice and safe, I hope. Wow. Initial impressions are pretty good, but it's hard to tell with it wrapped up in plastic, so let's get it out and see what she looks like. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Okay, that's... Wow. It's red. It's very red. I actually dig it. It's very clear that they didn't just repaint the original frontline, the mainline Stormtrooper armor here, so that's cool. Initial impressions of this gun. God, I'm so excited about this. It is just so cool. It's just so far advanced that it just doesn't seem like... My initial impressions are just like the originals. It's not like what I'm used to with Star Wars. It's very, very clean. Very, very high tech. It's definitely next generation. Here's the one that's sort of a modification of the regular Stormtrooper one. I see that right knee there is kind of cool. It kind of reflects the original Stormtroopers, the way that they had that little asymmetrical armor configuration. Looking up close at the hands here, you can see that lined motif that happens on the helmet and on the armor continues on the hands. There are some more close-up of the guns for those interested. They're really highly detailed, so intricate. I'm kind of concerned that some of these parts might be delicate. That right there especially I want to be careful with, that extending stock. Let's see. Oh, look, that moves. That's great. So if you want to... It doesn't look like... you can't fold this back and form a stock out of it. All you can do is drop it down and just have a forward grip, which is cool. First close-ups of the figure itself. Again, this is not a repaint. There's just so much that's different about this, head to toe. I really do welcome that. It's just refreshing. Yeah. But the real question is, will all these armor improvements make it more posable? So let's find out. So, getting started on this guy, the first impression that I'm getting is that it feels very familiar. I got a little bit of FaceTime with a standard Stormtrooper, standard First Order Stormtrooper, before recording this video. It definitely does not feel as tight. For instance, look at this range of motion on the knee. That you're getting a full 90 degrees there. Given the fact that he's wearing armor, I think that's respectable. I think that's sufficient. As far as getting a wide-legged stance goes, well, look at that. He's not going to do the splits anytime soon. That rubber suit underneath is going to prohibit that. But we're getting some fairly good extension. If you go any more wide than that, and in fact, that's too wide. I can't imagine a scenario in which I would ever pose this figure that wide. Checking here now the posterior and anterior movement, the forward and back range of motion on the leg. It's not very cooperative, but at least the arms can move. Look at that. So we got plenty of forward and back motion in the arms. One thing I'm noticing is that the way that this shoulder armor is attached, it's just held on by an elastic strap. I'm habitually worried about elastic straps on these things. In my mind, historically, they've all gone bad. Won't name any names of companies or anything like that, but yeah, I've just got a bad history with it. Maybe it's me, I don't know. But the armor does also include up at the top portion, where the socket would be, is there's a pad, a rubber pad there that kind of protects the deltoid area of the armor, and also I guess to give it a little bit of lift off of the shoulder there, just to make it more attractive. Okay, so decent range of motion. Let's just see what this guy can do. I think I'm going to mess with at the very least one gun. Actually, no, I'm going to do two. Yeah, I'm going to do both guns on this pose. Just to get started, I'm going to do something really kind of not overly dramatic. I mean, I'm sure that I've hit more dynamic poses than what I'm going to be able to hit with this. Look at that. That rubber suit actually goes all the way over the ball joint in the wrist peg. So that's not going to come out, first of all. And I guess that's kind of a good thing. The issue might arise if you actually break your wrist peg. Then that might become an issue. That might create some difficulty for you if you needed to swap out the wrist peg. We'll see. Or hopefully we won't see, especially not in this video. Okay, moving on. We've got both gun grips on him now, so that's setting the stage. Right now I'm checking the torso twist, and it looks like we're going to be able to get a fair degree of twisting out of it, more so than I can recall me being able to get from the previous Stormtrooper releases. Just checking the head here. Yeah, one of the problems that I had with the earlier Stormtrooper offerings was there was very limited opportunity for getting that head into what I would consider a cool pose. You always seem to be stuck at an angle that made the trooper look confused. For instance, Case in point, look at the way that head is sitting right now. I can't think of any pose that I'd want to display a figure in with a head tilted like that. It just looks too much like he's contemplating something, like he's confused, like he's trying to figure something out. And I suppose there would be situations in which you'd want that to happen. Maybe if you were doing this for a comic book, if you were drawing something like this for a comic book and you wanted to express some sort of confusion or some sort of ongoing thought process, or just trying to figure anything out, then that might be something that you would welcome. However, for what we're doing here, that's just not a cool thing. I will find out later on down the line that this doesn't present a problem. Now, what may present a problem, and I think does, is putting these guns into the character's hands. As you can see, immediately with my first attempt, the hand popped off. So, just a note, the hands do stay onto the pegs a lot better than in previous Stormtrooper offerings. However, they're pretty stiff. The fingers are pretty stiff. That's what created the issue. That's what caused this hand to pop off of the wrist peg. Another issue that you can run into here has to do with the armor being loose. When you're trying to use the armor for leverage, things like this can happen. Since the armor is mobile and it's loose on the wrist, when you try to exert enough pressure to put the hands onto the wrist pegs, then it can pop off because you don't have the force necessary to get that thing all the way onto the wrist peg. Also, if you're not careful when you're doing this, you can do what I just did right there. As you can see, that's the dejected posture for my hands, sheepish posture for my hands, if you will, because I just broke the damned gun. It's like I said when I pointed them out, they're delicate. As it turns out, in this case, it wasn't so bad. It was the magazine that came off, and I can't tell. It seems to be friction fit. So I just kind of put it back on there. It fit on there. I haven't touched it ever since, and it stayed on. So it's possible it was designed to be breakaway. However, I wouldn't test it. I feel like it's necessary at this point to point out that what just happened there with the gun was not the fault of Hot Toys. It was my fault completely. I think that when you're dealing with parts that are this delicate and this intricate, then they're going to be fragile. So if you don't exercise more than your usual amount of caution, then accidents like this are going to happen, much to your sorrow. But getting back to the point that I was trying to make, when you're trying to get a tight wrist peg onto a fist like this, if you use the armor as your leverage, watch what I'm doing there, how I'm kind of pushing my palm up against the elbow. I kind of bend the arm not quite 90 degrees, and I put my palm back against the elbow right there. And then I use that as my fulcrum, as my basis for actually applying pressure. That's where the force gets picked up. See what I did there. So if you really want to do this, then be careful about where you apply force, because if you use the armor for it, odds are what's going to happen is you're not going to have enough leverage to get that fist onto the peg. Okay, gun number 1 is done. Time to move on to gun number 2. This is the one that seems to be a modified version of the Sanblas F11D. I think it's F11D. Used to be E11, now it's F11. So now it's one greater in the alphabet. Come on, Sith Trooper. Joke wasn't that funny. Okay, so now that we got him back on his feet, again, ran into the same problem with the hands, trying to get them onto the wrists, and it just kind of knocked the Stormtrooper over there. I think maybe I should caution anybody and everybody, especially if you're just getting into 6-scale collecting, to don't do what I do what I say in this instance. Thanks, Dad, for that turn of phrase. Use the stand. It's what it's there for. You don't want to knock... This guy's tough. The plastic on this thing is tough. I'll inspect it later to see if I caused any damage to it, but I suspect it's fine. This stuff seems really, really sturdy. It's very, very solid. And I don't think that any damage will have happened by... Actually, I've got it in front of me right now. And it looks pretty good. Yeah. No indication of any damage done during the fall. No Stormtroopers were damaged during the making of this video. Only their guns were damaged. I should probably point out as well that this F11D variant, I'm looking at this scope, and I'm looking at a couple of other bits on it, and it just seems really, really delicate. So be extra careful when you're trying to figure out where to grip it when you're putting it into the hand. Again, I recommend, as I did, putting it into its hand before you put the hand onto the wrist peg. You'll probably save yourself a lot of heartbreak when you do that. Just checking the... okay, look how I'm doing with that leg bend right there. I decided that I wanted to go ahead and test the limits of the forward motion of those legs, and I was able to get a fair amount of motion, a fair amount of articulation out of it. The range of motion isn't great, but it's something you can work with. It's actually quite impressive. Again, I hate to keep bringing them up, but the standard line First Order Stormtrooper variants had some issues with that, and this Hot Toys really seems to have addressed this. The change is subtle. The improvements are subtle, but they're there. I'm going to show later on in the video that I was able to get a fair degree of performance out of it. Look at this. I mean, just getting that nice little bit of bend to the leg, having him lean forward in a slightly more aggressive posture. I dig it. I'm pretty happy about that. I don't want to say that I'm like over the moon excited about it, because that makes me sound crazy. But I do have a higher level of confidence about this figure than I even did going into it. It's really living up to my hopes. So, getting pretty close to having the pose dialed here. We're getting to the point where I'm going to be messing with waist articulation, with torso twists and whatnot. Right there, what happened there was the camera timed out. 9 minutes and 30 seconds is the most that I'm able to get out of this camera that I have. But you can see that I just made a few twists to the torso there between the time that it happened and the time that I figured it out. Just getting a bit more of an aggressive posture. In reality, guys, I don't know that you would ever see a Stormtrooper doing this, except for maybe a poorly made Michael Bay version of a Star Wars movie where the Stormtrooper, Sith Trooper in this particular case, was the hero. And that's just not going to happen. Please, Disney, don't let that happen. Don't let that happen, Disney. Anyway, too much coffee, I think. So, getting back to the point that I was trying to make, yeah, some people might just find this a little bit ludicrous, a Stormtrooper doing the, twin blaster effect, or in this case, I keep saying Stormtrooper, but in this case, a Sith Trooper doing the twin blaster effect. I don't care. This is my figure now. It's going on my shelf, and this is my particular approach when it comes to posing 6-scale figures. This is my philosophy. One of them. I have many. Tell your story. Tell your own story and tell it your own way. Don't let anybody tell you what's cool and what's not cool. This is not a cool pose, somebody might tell you. That pose sucks. All right, sorry it didn't work for you, but it works for me. It's on my shelf, and I'm the person who has to impress, not you. Oh, that didn't come off as too aggro. Regardless, I think that I've got the pose dialed. That's pretty much what I wanted it to be. Some minor tweaks. I think those guns were a little too close together. I'd like to get their angles just a little bit wider, and I do for the final photo. So that's it. If I were to give you a concise evaluation of my thoughts on this figure, it would be this. Clearly, without a doubt, the finest entry into a First Order Trooper that Hot Toys has done to date. There are some clear improvements that have been made in range of motion and posability. I'm so excited by this. I wasn't sure, I didn't know going into it just how excited I would be. I've never subscribed to the idea that I'm not hyperbolic with my analysis of 6-scale figures. There's always a gray area, and that's usually where I live. So I never had a fully negative opinion of any of the First Order Troopers. They work. You just have to be very patient with how you work with them. Having said that, this entry is clearly much more cooperative when it comes to that sort of thing. I hope that helps. But my opinion is you should waste no time. If you're going to SDCC or you know somebody who is, arrange to pick one of these up for yourself or have someone do it for you. You will not regret it. The design is excellent, the guns are excellent, and that red color is really going to make it pop in a display. There you go. I think this shot here proves that point quite nicely. And yes, while I realize that Captain Phasma is in fact dead, spoiler alert, I'm telling my own story here. On a sort of related note, if you're wondering how the Sith can be back, how Palpatine can be back, I highly recommend watching the Star Wars Rebels episode, A World Between Worlds. That's all I've got to say. Hope you guys enjoyed the review as much as I enjoyed making it. This is such a great figure. Tune in next time. Until then, be good to your plastic. Thanks again for watching the video, everyone. If you enjoyed it and think you might want to watch more, please subscribe to the channel. You'll be doing it and me a favor. Also, if you're really hardcore, go ahead and hit that notification bell right next to the subscribe button, and you'll be notified as soon as new content drops. That's about it. Take care. See you next time.